Welcome to my channel, English IN Story Sleep. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and don't forget to like and leave a nice comment. Love you all, thank you, and enjoy.
Once upon a time, in the ancient kingdom of Orivia, a land renowned for its deep gold mines and whispering forests, lived a young woman named Ilara. Ilara was not merely a beauty with hair the color of spun wheat and eyes as wide as the summer sky. She possessed a mind that was far ahead of her time. She adored reading dust-covered books and solving complex mechanical puzzles left behind by her late father, who had been the royal clockmaker. After her father's passing, their once warm manor turned into a cold prison under the rule of her stepmother, the Lady Morgana, and her two vain daughters, Neris and Darla. Morgana, jealous of Ilara's spirit, stripped her of her belongings, dressed her in rags, and forced her to clean the soot from the massive fireplaces day and night. They cruelly named her Cinderella of the Ash. But what Morgana did not know was that Ilara had hidden her father's greatest treasure beneath the floorboards of the attic. An ancient tome titled The Secrets of Orivia, filled with maps, codes, and riddles that only the sharpest minds could decipher. High above in the royal citadel, a heavy silence hung over the throne room. The old king felt his time was drawing near, and he worried deeply for his only son, Prince Alexander. Alexander was handsome and a gallant knight, but he possessed a melancholic heart. He refused to marry any of the princesses who arrived at court, interested only in crowns and jewels. He sought a partner who understood his soul and shared his thirst for knowledge. The king decided to hold a grand royal ball, but it would be unlike any other. He issued a strange decree. Entry to the royal ball is granted only to those who can solve the riddle attached to the invitation. Furthermore, the maiden who wears the golden mask and can answer the prince's question shall be the future queen. When the golden-sealed invitation arrived at Lady Morgana's house, Neris tore it open and read the riddle aloud, her brow furrowing in confusion. "I have cities, but no houses. I have mountains, but no trees. I have water, but no fish. What am I?" The stepsisters argued, and Morgana paced the room in fury, unable to find the answer. Ilara, who was scrubbing the floor nearby, smiled softly and whispered to herself, "A map." Morgana's sharp ears caught the whisper. She snatched the answer, wrote it down on her daughter's cards, and turned to Ilara with a malevolent sneer. "As for you, your place is here among the rats and the ashes. There is no room for servants in a palace of riddles." The night of the ball arrived. The carriage departed with Morgana and her daughters, leaving Ilara weeping in the overgrown garden beneath an ancient willow tree. Suddenly, a warm wind swept through the yard, and the trunk of the willow began to glow with a blinding golden light. From the light, emerged an elderly woman holding a staff that sparkled like the cosmos. "Tears do not solve riddles, my child," the woman said with a gentle voice. Ilara wiped her eyes. "Who are you?" "I am the guardian of memories," she replied. "I watched over your father, a good man. Tonight, it is time for you to discover your destiny." The guardian waved her staff, and the magic began to weave. The pumpkins in the patch swirled and transformed into a majestic, golden carriage. The 4 field mice became magnificent white stallions. And Alara's rag dress dissolved, replaced by a gown of midnight blue, dusted with diamond powder that shimmered like the galaxy itself. But the greatest magic lay upon her feet. It was not a glass slipper, but a slipper of solid gold, etched with delicate engravings in a lost language. The guardian warned her, "These slippers are not just for walking, they are a key. But remember, this magic is bound by time. At the final stroke of midnight, the spell will break." Magic is fleeting, but intelligence is eternal. Go, but be warned. The prince seeks a mind, not just a face. Ilara arrived at the palace wearing a golden mask that covered the upper half of her face, adding an air of intense mystery. At the gates, the guard asked for the riddle's solution. She answered with confidence, "It is a map." The heavy doors groaned open in respect. She entered the grand ballroom. Hundreds of guests danced in colorful masks, but Prince Alexander sat on his throne, looking bored, until his eyes found her. It wasn't just the sparkle of her dress. It was the way she ignored the mirrors and instead studied the ancient tapestries on the walls. The prince approached her, bowing low. "Most guests are here to look at me, yet you seem more interested in the castle's architecture." Ilara curtsied, her voice calm and melodic. "History is the shadow of truth, Your Highness, and this castle is an open book for those who know how to read." Alexander felt a spark he had never felt before. "This is her," he thought. "If you are skilled at reading," the prince challenged with a smile, "are you also skilled at playing?" He took her hand, leading her not to the dance floor, but out to the moonlit royal gardens, toward the famous Maze of Roses. "In the center of this maze lies the enchanted fountain," Alexander explained. "It is said that only 2 hearts that beat in unison can find the path. Do you accept the challenge?" Ilara stepped into the maze with him. The paths were blocked by iron gates that opened only with riddles. The riddle at the first gate: "The more of them you take, the more you leave behind. What are they?" Ilara answered instantly, "Footsteps." The gate swung open. The prince was astounded by her wit. They spent the next hours laughing, discussing astronomy, philosophy, and distant kingdoms. Alexander realized he had found his soulmate. As they stood by the shimmering fountain, lost in conversation, the great clock tower began to toll. Dong, dong. It was 1:15. Ilara remembered the guardian's warning. "Midnight!" she gasped, pulling her hand away. "I must go! I am so sorry!" "Wait!" Alexander cried, chasing after her. "I don't even know your name. I haven't seen your face." Ilara sprinted through the maze, her gown flowing behind her like smoke. She burst through the ballroom and down the grand marble staircase. In her haste, she stumbled, and one of the golden slippers slipped from her foot. She paused for a split second to retrieve it, but seeing the guards and the prince approaching, she abandoned it and vanished into the darkness. When Prince Alexander reached the stairs, he picked up the golden slipper. It was heavy, warm, and hummed with a faint energy. He noticed something strange. Inside the sole of the shoe was a hidden mechanism, a final riddle engraved in diamonds. I am not merely a shoe. I am a lock awaiting a word. He who speaks the true word shall unlock the light. The next morning, the prince did not declare a search for a foot that fit the shoe, for foot sizes could be faked. Instead, he announced, "The test of the word." The royal guard traveled across the kingdom. The golden slipper was placed before every maiden, and the prince asked them to solve the mechanism. What is the word that opens the heart of this gold? Hundreds tried. Some shouted, "Love!" Others, "Power!" Others, "The king!" But the shoe remained dull, cold as dead metal. Finally, the procession reached the home of Lady Morgana. Morgana had dressed her daughters in their finest silks. Naris tried. She screamed, "Beauty!" Nothing happened. Darla tried. She yelled, "Wealth!" Nothing happened. Even Morgana tried, whispering, "Cunning." But the gold did not shine. Prince Alexander stood to leave, his face heavy with despair. Suddenly, he heard a soft sound drifting down from the attic, a hum of the very song that had been playing in the Maze of Roses. "Is there anyone else in this house?" the prince demanded. Morgana stammered, pale with fear. No one, Your Highness. Only a dirty servant girl who knows nothing." The prince commanded she be brought down. Ilara descended, her dress stained with ash, her hair messy. The stepsisters giggled cruelly, but the prince looked into her eyes, the same intelligent eyes he had seen behind the golden mask. The guards placed the golden slipper before her. The prince looked at her intensely. "Do you know what is required?" Ilara looked at the shoe, then at the prince, and smiled that confident, knowing smile. She remembered what she had told him in the maze about the value of reality over illusion. She placed her hand gently on the golden slipper and whispered a single word: truth. At that moment, magic filled the room. The golden slipper began to glow with a blinding intensity. A tiny mechanical compartment in the heel clicked open, projecting a beam of light into the air that formed the shape of an iris flower, Ilara's favorite flower, which she had described to the prince in the garden. "It is you!" Alexander cried with joy. Ilara reached into the pocket of her tattered apron and pulled out the matching golden slipper. She placed it beside the first. The light from the two shoes merged, swirling around her. The remnants of the Guardian's magic responded to the truth, and her rags transformed once more into a royal gown, even more magnificent than before. Morgana and her daughters fell back in terror. The prince ordered the guards to arrest them for deception and lying to the crown. They were banished to the furthest edges of the kingdom to work the fields, so they might finally learn the value of hard work and honesty. Prince Alexander and Ilara did not marry immediately. First, he appointed her as the Royal High Counselor of Riddles and Knowledge. They spent a year traveling the kingdom, solving problems and ruling with wisdom and justice. When they finally held their wedding, it was a legendary celebration, not of wealth, but of love and partnership. Queen Ilara lived with her prince in happiness, proving to the world that the golden slipper did not make her a princess. Her brilliant mind and her honest heart were her true crown.